When I was looking to put a floor in my van, my goal was to have a solid insulated floor that didn't take up too much vertical space. And I didn't want to spend a whole lot of time or money fussing with the floor. So this is what I came up with. The final product is a sheet of vinyl taped to a layer of plywood, which is glued to a layer of XPS foam, and then underneath the XPS foam I used expanding foam to fill in the gaps between the ribs on the floor of the van. I was lucky that my van came with a floor mat that I was able to use as a template. I just traced the shape of the floor mat onto both the plywood and the XPS foam sheets. Then, using a jigsaw, I cut along my trace. When I was cutting contours that were along the wall of the van, I cut to the inside of my trace by about 3/16 of an inch. This made all of the pieces slightly undersized so that they fit on the first try. You will also notice that the pieces of plywood and XPS overlap so that the seam is not in the same place between layers. This allows the layers to be glued together into one piece. The next step was to lay a plastic sheet down on top of the floor of the van. I then put the first piece of XPS in the van and sprayed expanding foam underneath the XPS, following the gaps in between the ribs of the floor. I then weighed down this piece and waited about 20 minutes. I then followed the same method for the second piece of XPS. I then added the plywood pieces. I just simply glued these pieces to the XPS layer using more expanding foam, and then I filled in the gaps against the wall with more expanding foam. Finally, I put some weights on the top layer of plywood and let the expanding foam cure for 24 hours. Later on, I trimmed off the excess plastic sheet. I also cut and sanded down the excess expanding foam so that my subfloor was flat. I had to reinforce the front and sides of the floor with some dimensional lumber because the shape of the passenger footwell meant that the ends were hanging unsupported in free space. I then covered the floor with a roll of permanent carpet tape. I still don't know if this was a good idea or not. I just really didn't want to buy a whole gallon of vinyl floor adhesive. I stuck the vinyl to the tape and trimmed off the excess. I then just dropped the whole thing into place, and that's pretty much it. If I'm honest, the floor is a little lumpy in places, and the seam between the two pieces of plywood is visible if you're looking for it. I think to improve the final product, it would help to use thicker, higher quality plywood, and to be honest, this whole product is just kind of cheaply thrown together, and that was really the goal though, so in all, I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. So thanks for watching. I'm going to keep posting updates to this channel, so if you want to follow my build, please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.